So this time, what I can do is in my main application, I can simply already get access to the aircraft because it's been defined, and I can say aircraft, I don't know, Airbus 360 or something like that, something fancy, equals new aircraft, and it takes no parameters so far, right? So again, because this is a bit unrealistic, but just to demonstrate the high-level idea. Next, I definitely need to have my pilot, right? But the pilot also depends on the navigation class right here. So maybe before I start working with the pilot, you see how pilot depends on the aircraft, which I already have, and it also depends on the navigation class. So let me create this navigation class. And I will, again, take the signature of this method and just simply go back to my project, right, and say, okay, this particular package right here, let's create yet a new class which will be named navigation, and then click finish. That's just really simple, right? And in that particular class, maybe I can also demonstrate that I have a constructor named navigation public. In fact, public navigation constructor, and I may decide that I will do something in there in terms of the operations. I will have something that maybe a public returns an integer fly, and it takes parameters, right? So it takes parameters named autopilot, autopilot, let me call it this way, and then comma, I also need to have access to the pilot, to the real sort of like a class that represents the user and does things on behalf of the user. So pilot, pilot, right? So that's the second parameter here. So let's take a look. What could be the implementation here? We can go to say, to be able to debug this. Oh, by the way, pilot doesn't exist yet, so that's why the environment is unhappy about it. But so perhaps return 0 to begin with, and let's go ahead and create the pilot class. So far, this is really very simple, class. Close this. This is a very simple class. It just has one method, has the construction. We may decide to do things inside the constructor, perhaps give it some more parameters in, as we move along, but we're trying to focus on interfaces here. So I can try to use my autopilot by saying autopilot, set altitude. Oh, by the way, that's probably requires some sort of a parameter, right? So the parameter could be integer, integer equals. Perhaps there should be not hard codings that the way I'm trying to do them, but perhaps we should have maybe a set of parameters here. How about this? Int altitude, then int speed, right, and int altitude, speed. What else do we have there? We also have course, right? Course would be perhaps this could be a string. And so this particular constructor of the navigation class can then remember these parameters in the data attributes. Okay, so data attributes would be right here: altitude, speed. I'm trying to type nicely, but messing it up a little bit with the formatting. So let's do this. Okay, so these are my data attributes. And as you know, if I want to use this particular constructor, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, just altitude. This is one of the parameters. This altitude equals altitude. Then this speed equals speed, and this course equals course. Right, so this is the course that they suggest, and you know, to kind of disambiguate this, this could be whatever, east, south, west, or north, or something like southeast, southwest, and things like that, right? So and so forth. So this is what's behind the string. It could be like a compass readings, or we could also add degrees here, like, you know, there could be either a degree, could say, or something like you know, 120 degrees, whatever. So we'll see. All right, so then just for the sake of, you know, demonstration, something that doesn't look like an integer all the time, another string. Okay, so we can then modify our fly method to say, oh, we want to say this particular altitude when we invoke the autopilot, right? Then we want to say autopilot set speed, right? Set speed like that. There could be more complex protocols for this, because maybe you have to set it gradually rather than jump to, you know, but whatever, for the demonstration's sake. Okay, and finally, oh, I misspelled this guy right here. And so another one that we want, autopilot set course. And we can say course. And since I changed my mind on some of these things, well, of course, I can just take these guys, altitude, speed, and course, go back to my diagram right here and make sure that I use them. So this is an int. This one is another int. Okay, and this is a string. So notation in UML is sort of like backwards on attributes and the values that methods return. Okay, so doing some adjustments here as I move along, because again I'm trying to run a demo, so we're basically jumping back and forth between the design and the implementation. All right, then I need to change this interface. So actually it does take an integer course. It does take an integer altitude. And it does take a string speed. I'm sorry, this is out of order. So this is an integer speed, and this is a string course. I think this is the way it goes right here. And of course, since I changed those methods here, I still need to implement them. So I do need to say to kind of transfer these parameters and make sure when the real aircraft implements these methods, they have the same signature and take the same parameters. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a true implementation. Okay, let's save this.